Blog Talk Radio. Hi everyone, this is Camille from sunny California, and you're listening to the Coffee Chat with Camille show, which is a podcast series that interviews various guests about real-life topics for people who love to learn. Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. I'm trying a new microphone. Actually, I don't know if I even want to experiment too much with this. Give me one moment, please. I'm going to switch them out. Okay. Our show today is Precision Medicine with Len May. And one moment, I'm going to read the bio. 1 second. I apologize. Okay, yeah. All right, Precision Medicine with Len May. He is a Sciency Guy. His expertise is in human genetics and cannabis. He runs a DNA company and also has a background in the music industry. His passion is precision medicine and how we can personalize everything. Len May is an MSc CEO, and he's also co-founder of Endocanna Health, Inc. Mr. May brings more than 25 years of cannabis and genomics experience to Endocanna Health. A pioneer in the medical cannabis industry, May has been instrumental in shaping the current legislation and culture. He has held past positions as president of the Cannabis Action Network and board member and lifetime member of California Cannabis Association. May is the current chair of the CBDIA Science Board and is a stakeholder in some of the industry's most iconic brands. His areas of expertise include the workings of the endocannabinoid system and how DNA and genetic expression play a role in personalized health and wellness, leveraging the revolutionary platform of EndoDNA. As a certified medical cannabis specialist in medicinal genomics, May has an in-depth knowledge of genomics, cannabinoids, terpenes, and their interactions with the endocannabinoid system. As well, he holds a Masters of Medical Cannabis and a certificate in Endocannabinoid Formulation from the Institute for the Advancement of Integrative Medicine. Mr. May is a skilled speaker who presents a cannabis healing powers on prestigious stages worldwide to educate people. A published author of a book called Making Cannabis Personal, and the host of the popular Everything is Personal podcast. Okay, so for you, the audience, he's left a link. It's Endo, spelled ENDO, DNA.com. All right, and I believe he's in the studio, so we can get on with the interview. Yay.
Thank you for having me. That's quite an intro. I got to shorten it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
That's half the show, I think. I think we're almost done now.
Oh, so funny, right? Yeah, but it's so interesting because you're so wow, your expertise are incredible. But may I go ahead and proceed with our interview?
For sure.
How did you get into cannabis?
Well, I was the kind of kid that would sit in class, and there was all these sort of windows that would be open in my brain. And when the teacher calls on you, oh, what? I was kind of drifting off, and I was diagnosed with ADD, attention deficit disorder, which I don't like to call it a disorder because I find it to be my superpower, but that's what I was diagnosed with. I think I didn't have the H at that time, so I wasn't really hyperactive. And I was put on prescription medication, and I was hanging out with some older kids, and before school they asked me if I wanted to smoke a cigarette. So So I was like, yeah, sure, cool. I'm going to hang out with the cool kids, do a cool thing. And I didn't really question why they only had one cigarette, but that's what it was. So we got around the circle. It was like 4 or 5 of us, and they passed around the cigarette. When it came to me, I took a drag of it, inhaled, I think coughed a little, and tasted weird. So I tried it again, and they were laughing at me. So they put cannabis in the cigarette. When I went back to class, the windows in my head shrank, and I could focus. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I started kind of experimenting myself as I could find cannabis at that time, and it was working for me. It was really helping me to focus. And my parents didn't really like that too much. They would catch me over the years. Eventually, actually kicked me out of the house for cannabis. They never understood it was my medicine, and trying to have me arrested. They called the cops on me. And I was going to a music festival. A festival called the Horde Music Festival, which was like Blues Traveler, Ziggy Marley, the Black Crowes, and there was a banner with a group of young people called the Cannabis Action Network. So I walked up to them and I was like, "What are you guys doing?" Like, registering people to vote. I'm like, "Oh, well, that's pretty cool. Well, what else are you doing for legalization?" I said, "Registering people to vote." So long story, a little bit longer, I became the president of the Cannabis Action Network. And I held a rally at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where the Constitution, Declaration of Independence is an all-on-hemp paper, by the way. And my keynote speaker is this woman named Elvie Musica. And she was one of the first people to get federally prescribed cannabis under the ANIDA program. And basically, she had cannabis that was cultivated in the University of Mississippi through the federal government with a USDA label on it, which she could consume in front of federal rangers. But the next morning, everybody kind of slept over my house. Next morning, we woken up to a loud crash. And Elvie happened to walk into a sculpture I had in my house and break it. And the reason why, because she had degenerative glaucoma and couldn't see. So I witnessed her medicating with cannabis, and it actually helped her a lot with her glaucoma. She could start seeing again. So that was my sort of aha moment that, well, it's medicine for me, for my condition, or whatever you want to call it. It was medicine for her. So that started my journey of trying to dig deeper into the understanding how cannabis works as a therapeutic and how it's medicine, and why is it different for me versus her versus other people, and how it affects people differently. So that's sort of the beginning of my journey.
Okay, thank you very much. And then why DNA?
Well, so when I moved to Los Angeles, I got involved in a dispensary business, and I thought this was the best way for us to be able to get the plant to as many people as possible. But what I started noticing was that two people will come in with the same symptomatic condition, consume the same chemical variety, and have a completely different experience. So my ADD brain went on the internet and started looking at, why is this happening? I came across a video by a gentleman named Kevin McKernan, who was one of the first people to genetically sequence cannabis. And I reached out and got a chance to work with Kevin. I got to work on plant genomics. So I would travel the U.S., Canada, I would get plant material from the top cultivators, bring it back to my lab, extract the DNA, and sequence it. So we started the first genetic library of the plant. And the parent company of Medicinal Genomics, is the company I was working with at the time, was a company called Cortigen Life Sciences, and they did pharmacogenomics. So pharmacogenomics is basically the study of how drugs affect different people and how drugs can interact together based on metabolic function, based on your personal genetic predisposition. So I got heavily involved in the human genetic space. And my moment of clarity was, when we have plant genetics here, we have human genetics here. If we combine those two together, we can provide somebody a personalized roadmap for what genetic predispositions they may have and guide them to a more personalized experience. So that's how that came about.
Excellent, excellent. Now, let's talk music.
Okay, my favorite subject. Did you have a question about music, or you just want to talk music? I'll talk music all day.
I'd like you to talk about your background in music.
Well, here's the thing. it's interesting how this whole, I've been, so when I was a real little kid, I grew up in Philadelphia, and my mom had this thing where she said she was allergic to air conditioning. So as a little kid, it would be really hot in the summers, and I would open the window, have a fan, it's like blowing hot air. But to fall asleep, I had a radio, and I had a little tape recorder. I'm sure people don't know what I'm talking about, but it was this rectangular tape recorder that I could put the speaker to my speaker, my radio, and I can make recordings. And I would start making mixtapes. So that was the only way I could fall asleep. So I would make all these mixtapes and started getting really into music and discovering music. But when my parents kicked me out and I was still in Temple University, I had to pay my way through school. One of the things I did, there was a record store called Tower Records. They're out of business right now. They're still online, and I think there's one physical store in Japan. But I would go in there all the time buying music, and they had a job opening for a cashier. So I got a job at Tower Records, and then I became a music buyer at Tower Records. And from there, that's sort of the launch of my fascination of a deep dive into music. And when Tower Records closed down, I had a record company that called Mayday Music, where we would sell hard-to-find CDs and vinyl, a specific release that was Japan only, or a specific release that was Germany only, because I had all these relationships. And that was a really good business opportunity. And plus, it was so cool that I was in music all the time. And then some of these distributors started closing doors. So I got into music supervision, did a movie, 2 movies actually, did a video game. But today, my passion of music is focused on seeing as many live shows as I possibly can.
Okay, excellent. Then for our last question, how can we personalize everything with DNA?
Yeah, excellent question, because we talked about cannabis, but it's so much more than that. And it's not even cannabis, it's your endocannabinoid system, which is the primary modulating system. It actually is responsive for modulating and maintaining what's called a balance, what's called homeostasis within our systems. And it gets signals from the other systems that's in our bodies, sends it up the central nervous system, and then your brain releases endogenous endocannabinoids, which are our own neurochemicals. So cannabis works where when you consume THC, it binds to a receptor in our brain, our bodies, called the CB1 receptor, and releases these endogenous endocannabinoids. One of them happens to be anandamide, which is our bliss hormone, and that's when we get the runner's high as well, and that's when we feel that euphoria and that, craving munchies, etc. Now, the challenge is when we consume anything and we put it in our bodies, our genetic predispositions can be triggered epigenetically differently. So to make, once again, a long story, a little bit longer, but I'll try to keep it short. We have these genetics that we inherit from our parents, half from our mother, half from our father. And they're encoding for our life. So they have different information in there that, think of it as a bunch of on-off switches. And some of them, when we're born, are turned on. So like our hair color, our eye color, our skin color. Others can be turned on or off based on our lifestyle. So depending on what we do with our life, the nutrition that we consume, the exposure to heavy metal, pesticides, our mental state, all these different things will determine whether we turn on those genetic predispositions or turn them off. So that's really the goal of using DNA as sort of your roadmap for your personalized health and wellness, because we're all different. So yes, we have an endocannabinoid system DNA test. However, we also are moving to whole genome sequencing. And what that means is 64 million genetic biomarkers, which can be used as your personalized GPS for life. And what I mean by that is understanding what potholes are in your road and how you can avoid them. So an analogy I like to use is I'm from Philadelphia, I live in Los Angeles. I can get in my car and drive to Philadelphia. Now, without my GPS, I'm going to hit some wrong turns. I'm going to hit some potholes in the road and get lost maybe, but I'll eventually get there. In your life, using DNA as your life GPS allows you to navigate so you can kind of mitigate or avoid those potholes in the road and get there quicker and faster without possibly adverse effects. So I'll give you one more example. Bell peppers. So bell peppers are full of vitamins and nutrients. They're really, really good, healthy food for you. So when I did my microbiome test and my genetic test, it showed that bell peppers contain an enzyme that actually my body doesn't metabolize well. So for me, it's an inflammatory food. Well, how would you know that? Because it's supposed to be healthy food. So we all have our own genetic predispositions, and if we can use DNA to guide us, we can avoid or mitigate those epigenetic, those turning on those signs that may be specific for us. The other thing is interactions. When we consume certain foods or supplements with drugs, some of them have specific interactions. Those we want to mitigate as well. And the final thing is dosing. Dosing is specific for anything. Like I'll give you some more examples. We have a report on women's health, for instance. So understanding predispositions to perimenopause, menopause, and also the conditions or the side effects that some people may be prone to more than others, like mood swings or excess weight gain, etc. These are all genetic markers that you can use to guide you to your personalized life experiences.
Oh, that's wonderful information. I've really learned a lot quickly in your interview here, and I thank you so very much for for coming in. I'd like to know what your favorite coffee and or hot beverage is.
My favorite coffee. I'm a coffee my favorite coffee I ever had. I mean, it's going to be you can't get it everywhere, but I was in Colombia. And I got this coffee, and my God, this coffee had a sweetness to it itself. It's just fantastic. But as a hot beverage, I've been into this matcha latte with a shot of espresso. It's a hot matcha latte with a little bit of coconut milk and a shot of espresso. That's my favorite drink. I get that daily.
I can see why. That sounds great. They're delicious. All right, thank you so very much again for being here, Len. And then lastly, could you please just leave our audience with your social media handles?
It's Len May, LenMay, on Facebook and LinkedIn and on Instagram and Twitter and some of these other new ones, the X and whatever they're called. It's Len May DNA for the most part. So I'm pretty available everywhere. Anybody can reach out, social or email Len at EndoDNA, and happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here again. Happy Friday to you, and bye for now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, everyone. That was the magnificent Len May. And I'd like you to know that if you go to coffeechatwithcamille.com, you'll be able to listen to this episode and also receive his link to his website, which is EndoDNA.com. Okay, and then I'm trying to think, is there anything else? But I think that's it for now. I have one more interview to go, and then I guess that's it for today, right? Thank you so much, Seth. You're magnificent. And thank you all, my wonderful listeners, for listening to me and to the show. Bye for now.